Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Rebecca Johnson. I'm the brand marketing specialist here at VoIP Supply, and we're very excited to have a joint webinar today with our partners over at CyberData. And we're going to be going over a really special, new, exciting cloud control. We've got a little bit of history for you today that is going to be presented by Alan and the future of CyberData as well. And then Paul here is going to go through the demo of the program. So that's my little brief introduction, and I will pass this on off to you, Alan, and take it from there. So thank you for joining. Oh, one more thing, if anybody has any questions or anything, feel free to enter that into the chat, and we will make sure that this is recorded and sent out to all the participants.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rebecca, and thank you, VoIP Supply. Thank you for everyone joining us today. I'm Alan Danigian. I am the Director of Marketing here at CyberData. I'd like to bring my team on to introduce themselves. Paul Tuttle.
Hi, I'm Paul Tuttle. I'm our Director or Manager of Interoperability Technical Support and RMA, and I'm going to be leading the demo today.
I'm Pam. I'm in sales. If you guys need to reach out to us after this, we'll have all our contact information on the last slide, and we'll be sending you the slides after this. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Dan Marchetto. You can't see me for whatever reason. The camera's working, but the computer is not recognizing it. Vice President of Sales, Marketing, and Technical Support. So I'll be jumping in periodically, and I apologize for the technical, but I think you'll be far more impressed with the presentation than me being on video.
Hi, I'm Sarah Boucher, and I also do sales here.
All right, so let's get started. We want to jump into it and get into the really good stuff. Rebecca is driving, so let's talk about what we're going to cover today. We're going to talk a little bit about our past, the present, and what we've learned, and then we're going to go into the demo, and we will leave some time for discussion and Q&A at the end. Rebecca, could you go to the next one?
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about our past. Some of you may already be familiar with CyberData. We've been around a long time, since 1974. We actually started on the point of sale retail side of the business. And in the early 2000s, change in the market, we could see what was going on. We started to pivot, and we released the first SIP speaker in 2006. And over the next 10 years, we expanded our offerings. We added intercoms and horns and strobes and those panic alert buttons. And so we really were known as a hardware company, but you're now seeing a new CyberData, and we're going to show you that in a little bit. From 2017 to 2023, a couple of things happened where we launched a couple of programs that allowed us to gain better insight into the market, not just for the end users, but the channel, that those group of folks, those professionals that are in between that we weren't engaging enough with. So that allowed us to kind of ask, discuss, and learn more. Rebecca, let's go to the next one. So what have we learned? Key drivers, and it's not just for the end users, but it's also for those service providers and integrators. Convenience and efficiency, very, very important. Safety and liability, that's critical. Huge concern. And then the rapid response. Okay, so if this, then what? I've highlighted a couple of things that we kept hearing over and over: provisioning and setup. You know, phones are easy, endpoints take some time. Issues around support. There are both internal and external support teams. So they're going to be the first point of contact when an issue arises. Now, if they're internal, like we at CyberData, that's great. He's here. I could just pick up the phone or go walk over to him. But you know what? That's not the case across the board. That's not including end users and the channel. Finally, the increased requests. We kept hearing, can't you make something that will just make my life so much easier? So let's go to the next one. and let's talk about what we've learned in the future. And I want to call attention to this new Terminus logo because it is Manage, Monitor, Notify. That's our tagline. This is not a provisioning tool. This is not your basic management tool. We know there are lots of them out there. This is so much more, and I want to get into it. We've got Manage, Monitor, Notify as our tagline. Manage touches on that convenience and efficiency. You get a single pane view, a dashboard, and you can manage from anywhere in the world and any device in the world. You can manage it from your phone if you wanted to, or PC or tablet. You can manage those announcements and change them on the fly if you need to. If I'm an operations manager and I've got a bunch of stores up and down the eastern seaboard and I see a hurricane coming off the coast of the Carolinas, I can push a quick notification to that store and maybe we'll have a sale on salt or shovels. You can do that from anywhere. Mass volume control, lockdown capabilities, and Paul Tuttle is going to share a little bit more about that. Then we get into monitor, and this really does touch on that safety and liability. You want real-time status, and you want to make sure that everything is working in the event that something happened. You want to be able to go back and go, was that speaker working? Group scheduled access control. You might be a big manufacturer and maybe you're doing a cleanup day at the warehouse on a Saturday and you only want access for a limited amount of time for these folks. So you can set that from anywhere, from your phone, again, from any device and from any location. And then finally, the most important and critical part, it's that rapid response. Terminus has a very robust notification engine with single touch mass notification. The device actions that generate notification, that can be email or flickering a strobe or sending a text or SMS. It's simple lockdown initiation, which is really, really important. And Tuttle is going to cover that. And then immediate notification of that lockdown. If you're in a school and you're locking down maybe one school because of what's happening, but you've got a very large district, you may not want to lock down all those other locations. So without further ado, I want to send this over to Paul because the demo is really impressive. And as Rebecca and Pam said at the beginning, if you have questions, if after seeing this, you have a client that you think this may work perfectly, this is just what they're looking for, reach out to VoIP Supply or reach out to us. We are always talking together. And Paul, you take it away now.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks for that, Alan. You know, as an engineer, I always kind of feel it's super important and impactful to actually see a lot of, this stuff in action. It's all well and good that the market team can come out and say, oh, we can do this, we can do that. Well, let's actually, put some proof in the pudding there and let's show what this thing can actually do. So with the Terminus system that we're releasing, it's paired and kind of incorporated into firmware update version 22. It'll vary in typical CyberData fashion based on, the particular product you have. A speaker might be a slightly different version number compared to an intercom, but you'll notice that, we've got a new fresh web interface with the system. We kind of figured, with this big update, it was time to do a complete refresh. So you'll notice that gone is kind of our traditional blue web interface that we've had since the start of the company, and we've got a lot more modern design with your top toolbar up across the top that gives you your heads up information, the product that you're working on, serial number, storage space, MAC address, firmware version, what have you, and a more modern left-hand navigation for the various different tabs that you can work through. Effectively, we went and remodeled the web interface. All the settings are still in the same place. Your kitchen sink didn't move, but you put it in a new sink, and that's kind of what we did with this guy. So that, of course, is just, one of the major features of the update. But, what we're going to show off today is Terminus. So I think it's super impactful to go through the actual onboarding process. You can see how easy it is. So to get started, you need one of our gateway style products. And we currently have 3 offerings in terms of a gateway style device. We designed the system so that way you've got a gateway device that actually handles the connection to the cloud. So that way, say, in the event of, say, having 100 speakers, You don't have to poke 100 holes in your firewall. You've got a single device that manages that connection to the cloud, and then everything connects to the cloud through that particular gateway device. And our 3 gateway devices are, of course, our SIP paging server that I'm using here, our SIP paging 2570 volt amplifier, as well as the Informicast variant of that product, the Informicast enabled paging 2570 volt amplifier. So once you've got your gateway device, up and online, you basically just go to our Terminus tab here and we click Cloud Enrollment. And you'll notice that it changed my browser here. I'm already logged into our cloud platform. And then we have to pick a particular location. When you're going through and setting up an actual Terminus site, we have it tied to a location. That could be your physical location. Effectively, it's your gateway that you're tying it to. And since this is here in my home office, we're going to just go ahead and type in Paul's office. And we don't have one that's already created. So we'll just go ahead and create Paul's office. So we'll click that and it'll give us a little pop-up here. And we design the system so that way it can work in a hierarchical system. So our MSPs and our resellers and even our distribution partners have the capability to go and add in this Terminus cloud control capability for their various folks. A lot of end users won't necessarily use that, but if you're a reseller, you can go through and say have various different organizations underneath you. So the basic information you need to set is just what organization it's tied to and the name of that particular location. You could add in additional information like the description, public IP, or various different notes if you want to, but the only thing that's required is the organization and the name. And we'll just hit save and close. And now I've created that site. And now we can see that we're tying our site to the MAC address of my paging server. So we'll just go ahead and click link, and it's going to go ahead and open up another tab here. So that way we've got my web interface back on the paging server, and we'll navigate back over here to Terminus, and you can see that we've got this little pop-up here. Like Alan mentioned, we designed the actual web interface, or effectively the web server, the cloud access, to be multi-browser compatible. So of course, if you're using, say, a PC like I am, or if you're using a mobile browser, such as like a tablet or a mobile phone, you have the same interactivity. But we found with our mobile users that it didn't like when it pops up for the actual web interface of the gateway device. We've just got this little link that kicks over there. So the next step we need to do is just click discovered endpoints here, and that's basically just going to go through and tell my gateway device, my paging server, to scan my local area network, find all the various different CyberData devices, and point it out. So while we're waiting for that, we'll jump over to our dashboard here and give you a heads-up view of what you would typically see when you log into a Terminus-based system. So don't be alarmed. I'm in a engineering style, it's an engineering sandbox that we're playing in. So don't be alarmed by the 54,000, almost 55,000 alerts that we have here. It's an engineering sandbox, so we're going to get a little bit of that. Don't be afraid. Your system probably won't have that many alerts. But across the toolbar here, we've got, you can see that we've currently got 28 endpoints that are managed, 42 that are detected but not currently managed, of course, our 54,000 alerts, the status of various different SIP connections, any firmware updates that are available, and the current license usage. And then we've got our various different donut charts that kind of explain the various different information that we already have in a slightly different manner. Don't be alarmed with this guy not appearing. I use a weird browser and it blocks a lot of stuff on there. I'm very privacy conscientious, so don't be alarmed that some stuff is a little different on my end. It'll look nice on yours. But that's kind of our dashboard where you can get a lot of that up to date and various information on it. And the next tab we'll take a look at here is endpoints. So this is a good way to view all the various different devices that are detected on the system, and it's effectively kind of a spreadsheet style system. One of the nice attention to detail things that we did, and this is actually a big thing that Alan was big on, is actually just having a picture of the device in there, because you might remember what that device looks like when you install it 6 months or a year down the line. You might forget what the strobe looks like or anything like that. So we've got nice little pictures of everything in there. But of course, you've got your various different information on the device, things like the name, the status, if it's online, offline, waiting for sync, provisioning, what have you, MAC address of the device, the organization that it's tied to, its physical location, and the last heartbeat. But with all this information, you really need to be able to filter and drill down into it. And I'm really impressed with the way that we went through and built all this, where it can work on a tag system that I'll show you a little bit later. And we've got some built-in filters, of course, online or offline, arguably more important, provisioning, waiting, unconfigured, failed SIP connections, and you can add in various different custom filters in there. But one that's super powerful is just the location. So when we click on location, it groups all the various different endpoints based on their location, and we can see, hey, Paul's office now has 4 devices. So while we're looking at the dashboard, it went through, scanned my network, and found the various different pieces of equipment. So the last step we have to do to get everything online with Terminus is just go through and click adopt. So that way we adopt these devices into cloud management. It uses a license on all those various different devices, and we can see that we're going through and adopting everything in here. So while we wait for them to adopt, and when they're in the adopting stage, they basically just touch bases with the cloud, send up their configuration file. So if they were already configured and then they go into cloud management, that file is backed up on the cloud. They do, some final checks on everything, and then they're ready to basically manage. The process is very quick. But while we wait for that, let's take a look at our schedules tab here. So of course, since we designed this with the full capability to manage all your various different devices through the cloud, having our Bell scheduler built in is absolutely essential. So we've got our schedule in here. And one of the things we'll take a look at here is my Tuttle test schedule. And this is one that I've played with quite a bit. We've got a couple different schedule styles that you can have. For the purposes of today's demo, I'll just show off our Bell schedule style because it's so frequently used. But now that we're looking at that, we'll just click on Edit Schedule, and it's going to pop up the schedule that I have created here. And it'll be in very similar CyberData fashion. You've got your typical, various different days here with all the various different events, and it presents it in a style kind of like your Outlook calendar, your Gmail calendar, where you've got your month view. It's a lot of data on there. Really, I don't know many people that work off the full month view most of the time. A lot of the time, folks are working on their week-based calendar. So we'll change our view here to our week, and it's a lot like probably what your Outlook calendar looks like, where it's full of various different events in here. But you get your typical Monday through Friday view with hours for your rows, so that way you can tell where the various different events are. And you've got the same event creation style that we have in the CyberData hardware, where you can either click new to create an event, or we can just double click on a particular time to create an event. So let's pick a 12:30 bell. So we'll just double click there and we'll get our little pop-up. I like going through more options, so that way we can set a particular color for it, but we'll call this our 12:30 bell. So we'll just go ahead and type that in there, 12:30, not 13:30, 12:30 bell. We can see that it's tied to CyberData, the schedule that it's in, and our start date, which is at 12:30. And we want this bell to reoccur. So we check reoccur. It gives us, we can set the particular time zone that it occurs in, how often we want it to reoccur. Let's imagine this is for a school, so we want it to go through Monday through Friday. Then we pick our number of repetitions. For our retail clients, we have it in there so it can say, if, you've got, say, a advertising agency that wants to advertise a particular product, and they only paid for it to say, play 50 times or 100 times, what have you. You can control that all directly through here. But since it's a school, it's probably going to go to an end date, say, the end of the school year. And when I was a kid, the school year always ended kind of middle of May, so we'll have it go to May 16th. That sounds good. Also for our retail customers, when you configure everything, you can have it play, say, every hour, every 20 minutes, what have you. You can get in there and get very granular in your repetition. Now that we've got the time frame that we want it to play, we need to pick our audio file, and we'll just go for our Bell's audio file. We'll tie it to a page group 00. We don't want a relay to play. I don't want to add a description, but I do want to add a color in here. And today I'm kind of feeling a little purpley today. So let's do kind of a nice little light purple like that. And of course, it's full RGB color values. So if you've got, say, particular, say, school colors, company colors, what have you, you can set that up as custom. So now we've got that event created, and we'll click our little Save Manual button here. We'll go back to our schedule, and we can go to our week-based view. And there's our new event created in there. So it's very easy to go through and create an event in that exact same CyberData fashion that you're used to from our typical on-premise hardware. So now it's been enough time. Let's jump back to our endpoints tab and we'll go to our location view here and we'll go to Paul's office. And we can see now everything's configured with the cloud. It's already up and working. And, I've been talking for maybe 10 minutes and we've got everything up online and ready to go. So let's take a look at what you can actually do on the device itself. So we'll look at my paging server, my gateway device. So of course you get your basic heads up information, the device, MAC address, serial number, both public and private IP address, so that way you know exactly where it is, the time zone that it's tied to, organization, the license type, and I'll talk about the license type a little bit later. We've also got basic information on the device health capability, so if it's online, offline, what have you, its uptime, the last heartbeat that it got, when it was last provisioned, the SIP registration status, the storage that's available on it, and of course the firmware version. So that's all well and good, cool. You can see the up-to-date information on it, but what can you actually configure on this guy? Well, you'll notice over here on our right-hand side, we've got the full capability to get in here and adjust all the various different settings in a very similar style that you would get on, the actual hardware itself. So just to show you how fast this actually goes through and provisions on the device, we'll say, hello world. Thank you for attending. And we'll just go ahead and click our little save icon up here. And you can see as we look through the various different tabs, we've got things like our P groups, our fault tab, audio files. You can manage everything that you could on local hardware directly on the device. And now we'll jump back over here to my paging server. We'll click our home tab. And one of the nice features that we added, because with this device status feature here, you can see exactly what the device is doing when it's, sitting there and you're maybe not on site and you're trying to manage it. Is it playing line in audio? Is somebody making an announcement? Is it playing a bell schedule? Or is it managed by the cloud? You can see that little cloud managed status icon there. And that'll just show when it's idle. And then of course, if it's playing music or what have you, that current status will change. And of course, we've got this other little persistent banner that's up there just to that little extra reminder, hey, this thing's managed by the cloud, manage it in the cloud. And we'll jump over here to our SIP settings, and you can see that our settings have already propagated over here, and I took extra time. It takes about 10, 15 seconds for those actual settings to propagate over to your device, so nearly instantaneously. So that's all well and good, cool, great. We've got a device, the capability to manage the various equipment in there. Everybody else has that. What's so special about this? Well, one of the things that I like about it is you get this live capability up here to look at the actual logs from the device. So we can see based on when we had this page pulled up and when we kind of went through and got everything started, we can see, hey, here's the event from the actual device coming under management. It happened at 11:16 local time, and then it was basically ready to go at 11:17. So a little bit less than a minute, it was basically ready to go through the system. So you get up-to-date logs. These are important in another thing I'll get to momentarily, but you get that kind of up-to-date information on any of these different events that are pushed to the cloud. And a later release will have the capability to actually pull the actual logs directly from the device. You almost won't even need to touch the web interface of the device anymore. But one of the features that I think is super impactful is our notes tab. And we've got this available on all the various different products. And you can come in here and you can add in your regular notes. You can type stuff in. Okay, cool, Paul, that's great. I can add in some notes on there. I'm never going to use that. Well, I kind of agree with you. That's why we added in structures in here. So that way, say you're doing an installation and you want to go through and create a checklist. Not really as applicable for something like a paging server, more for speakers. Say you're installing 100, 150 speakers at a school. It sure would be nice to have a detailed list on the status of the installation process for all these various different pieces of equipment. So you can come in here and say, switch port configuration, SIP registration, cable pull, mounting, you can go through and check all these things off as you go through and use it. So that way, as you're going through the installation process, you've got one place that everybody can come in here, check the notes on that unit, and see exactly how it's configured. But that's great, cool. I'll use that during installation, then I never use that feature. Well, especially with products like our speakers, if you pair it with our new 2x2 ceiling tile, that might get lost in a ceiling tile grid. You might be able to notice it at first glance when you're there doing the installation. But what if you have to come back in like a year to check on everything? You're trying to upsell them on new switches or what have you, and you want to check on all the speakers. Well, it might be hard to remember where it is. Well, we literally added in the capability to add in a picture if you want. So that way you can load in a picture of the actual unit while it's in place. Not that applicable for a paging server because it has a big silk screen on the front, says paging server, you know where it is, but a ceiling speaker that might get lost in a ceiling tile grid, you can snap a picture of it and upload it directly from your mobile device. So super duper powerful there. And if you pair this with tags, another feature that we added in for all of our various different devices, you can get super granular on the information. Let's say we're setting it up for a speaker in a school. We could set this up as, classroom. I don't know. Let's say I'm feeling 203 today. So that'll be 203, and this will be, let's see, this will be Mr. Jones's office, Mr. Jones's classroom. Then this can be, switchport, 23. And then, it can be the West MDF. So that way, exactly where the device is located. You can add in all these various different tags. And the tags also play into another thing that I'll show off in here, because it's great, cool. We can tag all this information. That's helpful. But what can I actually do with all these tags? And the tags tie in specifically, if we come up here into system and go to automations, you can set up automations, or basically if this, then that style scenarios on various different, activations. And one that I always like to key off of, this was a big one that I was doing before the Christmas holiday, just because, my office is upstairs, I'm talking a lot, I've usually got a noise canceling headset on. I won't hear, if Amazon is down there at my front door. So say, for example, I had one of our keypad or one of my intercoms downstairs. If somebody were to press that button on the intercom, my front entrance intercom, I can trigger an alert based on that. Okay, cool. So what can I do with that? Well, if we look at actions, you can trigger various different actions through the device. So as an example, I could have the strobe here in my office blink green. That's super powerful. I've got that kind of capability there, but I can also send notifications. So I've got myself tagged here as an SMS contact. So as soon as that button is pressed, it's going to blink my strobe green and send me a text message that, Uncle Jeff Bezos is there with my Christmas packages. So I got to let him in. But you can also set up email tags and everything on here. And the cool thing that you might notice, because we can trigger various different actions on a device, an action is an event that would get logged by the device in the system. So you can have automations that trigger automations that trigger automations. So in like one of the examples that Alan gave, so you've got a whole bunch of our call/panic alert buttons, basically your under desk help buttons. If one of those is pressed, of course, it can do its typical thing, call emergency services, call your school resource officer, send out a local area network multicast broadcast. But how do you alert your people that are off-site? Well, based on that button getting pressed, you can set up an automation to say, send an email to a group of parents to say that, hey, an issue occurred at the school, lockdown is getting entered. It can send a text message to various different administrators at the school. And because all those actions are taken, it can trigger more actions. So that way it can precipitate out, and you can have something as simple as pressing a single button, notify an entire campus, shoot, maybe even, an entire school district if it needed to get to that point. So super duper powerful in that aspect. So one of the last features that I'll touch on before I kind of summarize everything is our lockdown feature that we have here. So lockdown is super duper powerful. And of course, when you're thinking lockdown, okay, what does that mean? Is that going to lock down my speakers? Is that going to, lock down a paging server? No. This is designed for access control equipment. So products specifically like, say, our SIP outdoor intercom with keypad, basically, our keypad intercom. For folks that aren't familiar with that, you can, of course, dial out directly with that. Almost no one ever uses that. What most folks use it for is an actual keypad to enter in key codes. So that way, if it's a main entrance for a building, instead of having to press the button and talk to somebody and get buzzed in, you almost need to hire somebody full time to just do that. You can have somebody punch in a key code, and that way they can be on their merry way, no phone calls necessary, and they can, get access to the building. But in the event of a lockdown, you might not want that, part-time janitor that only comes in on the weekends or at nights. You might not want his code to work, but you might want, say, the school resource officer to work. So this gives you the capability to go through and pick users that are allowed to bypass the lockdown and then lock down a site. So say, for example, I was using my keypad intercom at my front door. My code could work, but Dan, my boss's code, his code doesn't need to work. If I'm going into lockdown in my house, he doesn't need to come in. So we can just come through with a couple clicks of a button, click lockdown, pick your location and lockdown. And now if I was using some of those equipments, all of those users would be temporarily removed from the system and their codes would no longer work. So in the event of a code getting leaked, or a would-be aggressor that has, say, a lost key card, that card is now disabled, assuming it's not in that lockdown override list. So to summarize everything and how it ties into everything, of course, here on a dashboard, you can get the various different manage capabilities of your equipment. You can go and configure every single feature of a particular device. Hey, we rolled over to 55,000. Cool. I'm excited to see if it'll go to 6 digits if we ever get to that point. But based on these alerts, hopefully you won't get up to 55,000 alerts. It gives you the capability to monitor all your various different devices. So you can get up-to-date, real-time information on when any issues might be occurring, or if there's something you need to check on that. But it gives you the capability to automate and really control a lot of the system there. So with our kind of 3 tiers, this really, I think, creates a really powerful solution for a lot of our clients that are looking for something that is very powerful to manage all the various different CyberData endpoints. And with that, that concludes a lot of my demo here. So we'll go ahead and kill my screen share and see what questions we have.
So Alan, have any, or Paul, can you see any questions that have come in? Otherwise, I have a few that are the standard questions we've been getting a lot of.
No, yeah, nothing in yet, but they might be typing furiously. So what do you got?
So one of the ones that we often get asked is, we're setting this up. Time is of the essence. How long does it take to set up?
Yeah. No, great question with that one. And, that's a common concern, especially with stuff like this, assuming everything's on the regular, up-to-date firmware, again, version 22 and above, can take less than 5 minutes. As you saw, as we were looking at the various different actual events from my paging server, it connected to the cloud, was provisioned and ready to go within a minute. So, at scale, so we're talking 100, 200 speakers, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, worst case, if your network's kind of slow, but it'd probably be faster than that.
Amazing. What if, and this one is very important to installers, and we've been asked this time and time again. I'm doing my install over the weekend when everybody else is closed, because that's when we do installs. I need more licenses. I need to install more gear. But you guys are closed. CyberData is closed. How do we do that?
Yeah, great question. And thanks, Dan. I forgot to talk about the license types that I said I was going to talk about. So with the system, we've got, a trial style license. And you saw that when we were looking at my paging server. Basically, we designed the system because we understand, through our design service program, that a lot of folks install over weekends, over holidays, over school periods. One of the best times to get in there and install during the school year is, over the Thanksgiving holiday, over the Christmas holiday, maybe over spring break, where a lot of businesses may be closed. Of course, we're all open during spring break, but we understand that okay, it's a pain in the butt. If you're trying to install something over a holiday period, and I've got 51 devices and I've only got 50 licenses. Now I can't set up this other guy. I gotta play with the licenses. We created a trial period, so any device that you onboard has a trial period license for a month. So you've got a month to get that settled out. So you do your installation, you get everything configured, get all your tags set up, everything's ready to go. And then during regular business operations, whether it's direct through CyberData or through our partners at VoIP Supply, you can go through and get those additional licenses and get your system back up to snuff. So that way you don't have to worry about it in a month's time.
Wonderful. Have any questions come in? Otherwise, I will move on.
Yeah, not that I'm seeing.
Fine. Well, that's fair enough.
You guys just happen to cover everything. So
That's everything, Paul. So
that's how it goes.
To summarize, I mean, 50 years, I mean, we've been regarded a hardware supplier at the nth level, for paging and notification endpoints. And we still are. We still build all these endpoints that keep these businesses safe. But now we've pivoted our business to become an all-encompassing, complete enterprise-sized solution provider. And that's a key change to the way we've done our business. CyberData now allows you to manage, monitor your deployment, and more importantly, you'll be able to notify all those that need to hear your announcements or need to know an action being taken. And conversely, you'll be notified on any device that needs assistance or has fallen offline, which is a whole different realm of just management. So in summary, we think of it as Terminus supplies a complete end-to-end ecosphere for CyberData notification and paging solutions. And with that said, on behalf of all of us at CyberData, even those that aren't on video at this point, we'd like to thank you for attending. And we certainly appreciate VoIP Supply supporting us in this. And if you have questions, give VoIP Supply a call, or call Pam or Sarah. And with that, I will turn it back over.
You guys did a great job. Thank you so much.
Thank
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. If anyone has any questions, you know where to find us, and we hope you have a great day.
Thank you. Take
Wonderful.
care.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Leaving.